Sortition is, random selection has many names, lottery. Sortition is looking at how that's applied to politics or the collective affairs of a society rather than, the lottery where you have bought a lottery ticket and you're waiting to get rich. So one of the most potent things in politics is that nobody is in charge of a random selection. And if it's done correctly, it gets in the way of anybody trying to manipulate things. So if it's truly random selection, nobody knows what's going to happen, what's going to show up as a result of the random selection. So if you have a system that is working really well for you and it has, it's by elections or whatever, then you don't really have to worry about it. But if you have a system that is filled with corruption, this offers a very powerful lever to shift it. If you could choose your legislature by a random selection of people in the society, or a random selection of everybody who's volunteered, they say, if I'm chosen, I would love to do that. This pot that has 4 million people in it, and you choose 400 of them to be in your legislature. The chances of somebody being able to manipulate that are really small. And of course, you can say, if you manipulate this, we're going to penalize you. So if we find out that you have offered people, $100,000 if they will vote to favor your corporation, then we can, close down your corporation or put you in jail or something. Like if people meddle with juries, or certain kinds of corruption in politics are illegal. So it runs into all that. But the principle of random selection gets in the way of manipulation and corruption. And it helps produce legitimate, deliberative cross-section of the population. So you want to have a group of, 10 or 100 people who are going to discuss some public issue and report back to the people at large, or to certain decision makers, or to the media or something. You want a sense of you're going to benefit. It's like the microcosm pattern. You want to have the benefits of high quality, deliberative conversations and information, but you can't give that to millions of people. You can, however, give that to tens or hundreds of people. So how do you pick those people? Well, one way to do it is random selection, and that will, if it's done well, will give you something close to the kind of diversity you have in your population will be present in your microcosm, your smaller group, to do that. That's the way surveys are based on this principle. And it can fairly distribute desirables or burdens. So one of the classic examples in the United States was the draft. Every guy had to register for the draft back in the 60s and 70s. And then from everybody who was there, they picked people in a lottery, put people's names in the hat or the bucket and pick it out, and that's who gets drafted. And it's a little bit scary, but it is fairer than having some system where somebody can buy their way out of it. Or we're not gonna pick certain kinds of people, rich people who are students, people or whatever, and people who don't have the money to have those benefits, or don't have the capacity to fill out 200 forms or whatever. This is a good, fair, everybody has an equal chance of getting picked. And there was back in ancient Greece, I was quite surprised to find out several years ago when I did research on it, the vast majority of government jobs, bureaucratic positions, were chosen not by, appointment, or by, somebody knew somebody, or you have particular skills, but you are chosen by lot. And practically every citizen, which is the male residents of the who were not slaves, free male residents of Athens, wouldn't by the end of their lives, they would have played one or two participated in one or two actual government functions, fixed the roads or made decisions about some kind of policy or whatever. And this is a sense of, this is both desirable because you have some power, and a burden because you have to do work on behalf of the public instead of yourself. But it was fairly distributed. The sense of everybody participating in some fair system was very strong for the Greeks. They thought elections were elitist, favored elitist people who had good name recognition or were wealthy and could buy publicity. The ordinary guy didn't have a chance. So this is that kind of thing. And in some societies, there's not enough university places as university students to get in the university. So if you have done your qualifying exams, then it goes, next step is to pick at random people who are going to go to the university. Ideally, you'd have everybody be able to get these things, but if it's scarce, the random selection, choosing by lot, is fair. And we think of it as just chance. So the universe has this element of randomness, and you mix these things up in the bucket, and you pick one out, and that's chance. And the Greeks are much more oriented towards, there's a larger wisdom than human wisdom at work in the human world. And this is a way to acknowledge that. We're going to be picking leaders, and they're going to, the gods are going to help us decide who should lead us. So we pick it. That's the gods, making their decision. Who are we to question the gods? So it's a different feeling, and I'm divided in how to look at it. I don't think of gods as personalities that can make those decisions. Some people do, but there's a sense of there are larger forces at work that you could trust to do this other than just mechanistic chance. But those are some of the larger philosophical perspectives about it. And there are some of the applications, particularly in Italian city-states. They voted for people, or they did random selections for people who would then vote for people who are going to do the next random selection. And they had layers and layers of voting and random selection going on, and having kids pick people's names out of the hat. So it's one of the important things in doing random selection is who's in the pot, who's in the pool that you are randomly selecting from. And there's lots of sophistication about what random selection means. In our modern societies, it's impossible to do a very strict, perfect random selection. You can't, they used to just do phone numbers, but you can't do that anymore because so many people have cell phones that aren't listed. Voter rolls are sort of good, but there's some places where the voter rolls are not even on electronic. There's communities where they have voter rolls on electronic disc. You can just buy a disc of all the voters in your district for $30 or something, $30, and then do a random selection using a random number generator from the web, which I know at least one initiative that was done that way. But then you've got to contact these people, and a bunch of people don't even know who you are, and they don't want to participate. And other people who want to participate may be really biased, and it's just like the ability to do true random selection. It's like true majoritarian voting, like in the United States. The vast majority of people who are elected are not elected by a majority of the citizens. There's only some citizens who are registered to vote. A lot of people who are registered to vote don't even show up to vote. So people end up being elected by some, 20, 25% of the population. But still, the majoritarian principle is there. And similar for sortition. There may be difficulty in getting true random selection. But basically, if you're trying to get a cross-section, you can do, a big randomly selected pool and then search for people in that pool who fit certain kinds of demographics. Or if you're just trying to interfere with corruption, just having the final decision be made in a way that it's not corrupt, it's, by chance. So there's ways to play with this concept. It isn't just one thing for all purposes, there's different ways to apply it, different realms to apply it in. There's a whole field here that you can get more and more sophisticated on. But I love, for me, the most important two pieces are that it thwarts corruption and it creates legitimate cross sections for use for deliberative citizens' liberation use.